Hello and welcome to part 2 of Collective Teacher Efficacy, We Cause Learning. Jenny Donahue has done some research on how do we get this collective teacher efficacy in our schools, and she gives us 4 ideas. This is the part where you are going to get a chance to reflect and then send those reflections as artifacts to your administrators. To do that, you're going to have to pause the video to write some things down. So if you haven't made this video full screen, I think that's the only way you can see the pause button. So anyway, so here we go. So what are the 4 things that help us build collective efficacy based on the research of Jenny Donahue and several others? The first thing she talks about is mastery experiences. So this is where we experience success, and we can experience it in 2 ways, as individuals and as a team. Some of my examples right now are the math team are experiencing a lot of success right now in our data evaluation year. They decided what data they wanted to gather so that we can find our possible weaknesses and possible strengths, and then we're carrying that all out and we're finding out things, and we're also talking about, what are we going to do as a result of those, and we're doing that all as a team. And it's a really great thing to watch that team work so well together. And so that's a mastery experience. I hope they're feeling it as much as I am. Then I experienced some individual success this week. Yesterday, I was working with a student. I was helping her to write full sentences in past tense. And I, probably went over 6 or 7 important things with her. By the time we were done, she had 4 or 5 of them down cold. But I also know that by the time I get back to working with her, that will probably have dwindled to 2 or 3. But it's still a mastery experience because she will know 2 or 3 that she did not know before yesterday. And what's more, each time I work with her, I know I can get her back up to the 5 and then up to the 7. And also, each time I work with her, I learn new things about what works with her and what doesn't. So that's a mastery experience. It's not over yet, but I know that it will be a great experience when I'm done. So what I would like for you to do is I would like for you to pause this video, and I would like for you to write down a recent mastery experience or 2. This will be the artifact that you will send to your administrator. Please do that now. Okay, so I hope you got a chance to write down a couple mastery experiences. What's number 2? Vicarious experiences. This is the part where we see others who are somewhat or a lot like us being successful. And so when we see that, then we go, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. So before I tell you of some vicarious experiences from East Buchanan, I would like for you to pause the video and write down some experiences of your own where you've seen someone like you who has been successful. Pause the video now. Thanks. Okay, so I hope you wrote down a vicarious experience or 2. Here's some that you could have written down from East Buchanan. First of all, last year we had at least 2 teachers that were published. A couple years ago, we had 2 teachers that presented at Interface to other educators. Today, November 15th, 2019, we actually have 2 teachers from East Buchanan who are presenting at MSTA. And so those are awesome experiences. The other thing I thought I would do is to look back and see how many times our educators here at East Buchanan had held a PD session on our PD days like today. And so I thought I would just go back and look at the documentation and count those. When I first started this job 10 years ago, I would go to these PD experiences outside of our district, and with the idea of bringing back that knowledge and teaching it to others here at East Buchanan. But each time I would go out, I would, somebody would present on something, and I would think, oh my gosh, well, Mr. ABC from East Buchanan does that well, and even better, or Mrs. XYZ could have done that presentation a lot better than the presenter I just saw. So when I would come back to teach others, I would just go up and ask them, hey, do you feel like holding a PD session for us on this thing that you do so great? And over time, it just became the culture that our teachers, who are experts in these things, are in a variety of things, were presenting. And now it's so much a part of the culture that teachers come to me and say, hey, I learned this summer. It was really great. And if you need me to present on it, I would love to. And so if it ends up on a needs survey, well, then I go to those people and say, hey, can you do that at this particular PD day? So such a great situation. And as either you've been part of that, which is a mastery experience yourself, or you've watched it happen, and that's a vicarious experience. But here's how strong that vicarious experience is for our district. I thought I would count those, and I counted every time a teacher stepped in front of a group of fellow educators here at East Buchanan and presented something that furthered their professional learning. And I thought, oh, I'll probably get 50 or 60 times. There were actually 143 instances of a single teacher standing up and furthering our professional learning. So 143, like you could write down the number 143 and call that very successful. All right, so what's number 3? Social persuasion. This is where others that know about certain things tell us that we can. So this is like when a student looks at you and says, hey, you've really helped me with this, thanks. Or this is when a parent says, you really made a difference in my kid's life. Um, or I'm going to do it right now. This is where Val Jones is going to tell you how every one of you are such great educators that I tried really, really hard to get my son Wyatt and his wife Sam and their 3 babies a house out here in Gower where they could come to to this district and have the East Buchanan experience, because guess what? Kirk is a kindergartner this year, and I couldn't find him a house that was suited. So that disappoints me because I really wanted Kirk to experience each of the teachers here at East Buchanan, because there's so many great strengths that you all have, and I wanted him to benefit from all of them. And some people will say, well, Val, you like everybody. Yeah, I do like everybody, but that doesn't mean that I trust everybody automatically with the education of my grandson. But I do trust you all, and I'm in every classroom, and I do and would trust you all with the education of Kirk, and I did trust you with the education of Wyatt, and I just I want you to believe that because it's very true. So that's social persuasion, and I want you to think about the last time, or maybe the second to the last time, that someone um, talk to you to persuade you that you're doing a good job. Um, and yeah, I just did it myself, didn't I? So you could write that down if you wanted to. So pause the video and write down a couple instances of social persuasion. All right, excellent. I hope you wrote down a couple instances. Even when parents stop and talk to you because they're happy to see you after you've had their students, that's also, and maybe they don't just say, oh, we miss you. Maybe they do, but maybe they just stop and they're just happy to see you. Well, that's the same thing as them telling you you did a great job. If you didn't, they would avoid you, I would think. So, all right, what's number 4? Number 4 is the affective states. So, this is about emotions. So, what we know is that the research says if we control negative emotions and do things to support positive emotions, that we build collective teacher efficacy. So we need to do that for ourselves, and we need to do it for the other members of our team. Part of this research that I didn't put in these videos today um, was I looked at what are the barriers, what are the biggest barriers to collective teacher efficacy, which is something we can look at in the future. But one of the biggest is fear. And so if you think about that, that's about the affective state. So if teachers are fearful, if educators are fearful, then they don't take risks, and then they don't learn as much, and then they don't believe in themselves, and they don't have those mastery experiences, and there's this whole vicious cycle. So um, so one of the things we know is that that fear can't be a part of what we do around here. We need to take fear out of the equation. And so Hattie looked at the most effective teams that had the most collective efficacy. And one of the things that he looked at, he measured, what are the things that, that those most successful teams have. And what he found was social sensitivity. This was where people were well aware of others' emotions and were very careful of other people's emotions. And so that meant that they didn't do things that made other people fearful, and they made sure that they did, that there was turn taking, and that when that everyone got a voice, and even when everyone got a voice, that they went further, and they would talk to them about whatever the other educator had said to them, so that the educator that was talking to them would know they had listened to what they had said. So the teams that had the highest amount of social sensitivity, with more people with high amounts of social sensitivity, were the most effective. So they were effective because their affective states were strong. So I would like for you to think about when was the last time you controlled a negative emotion, or you did something to support positive emotion with either yourself or with your team. And this can be something as small but important as saying hi to your colleagues in the hall and smiling at them, saying good morning, and making them happy that they're here with us on this planet and in this district, helping our students be successful together as a team. So pause the video and write down a situation where you feel like you have contributed to a positive affective state in our school. Okay, so I hope that you wrote down some of those things that you had done to help us all have positive emotions. All right, and so that is the the end of part 2, and there's one more exercise that I want you to do, and that is in video number 3. So keep those 4 answers that you just wrote down to that go along with these 4 points from Jenny Donahue, and have those ready to send to your administrator. And we will do one more thing in the last video to wrap this up. Thanks so much. Go to video 3.